This is not madness. This is not overthinking, paranoia, or emotional instability. What you are experiencing is the pressure, the stretching, and the spiritual recalibration that happens when God sets someone apart for a divine assignment. Many are called, but few are chosen, and the chosen ones walk a road so narrow that only their spirit truly understands it. Every chosen soul faces battles that others cannot see, burdens that others cannot carry, and awareness that others cannot comprehend. If you have been asking yourself, why do I feel so different? Or, why does God keep pulling me away from what everyone else calls normal? You are not losing your mind. You are awakening to the purpose that has been written into your spirit since before you were born. Here are 7 mind challenges every chosen one faces every day, not because they are weak, but because the weight of their calling demands a sharper, deeper, and holier mind than the average person. These challenges refine you. They separate you. They prepare you. 1. The battle between your spirit and the world. Chosen ones live every day with an internal conflict, the pull of the world versus the pull of the spirit. You can't fit in no matter how hard you try. Conversations that entertain others bore you. Environments that feel normal to the crowd feel heavy, draining, or spiritually contaminated to you. You're not judging anyone. You're not trying to be different. It just happens. Your spirit recognizes things long before your mind can explain them. You walk into a room and feel the atmosphere. You sense people's intentions before they speak. You feel the weight of spiritual warfare even when nothing visible is happening. This is not a burden, it's discernment. God is sharpening your senses because your mission requires clarity, sensitivity, and spiritual accuracy. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to see what others overlook, hear what others ignore, and perceive what others deny. 2. The mental whiplash of being awake in an asleep world. Every chosen one faces the disorienting experience of seeing the truth while the world around them remains spiritually blind. You look at society and feel a deep ache. Why can't they see what's happening? Why is everyone following illusions? Why does deception spread so easily? You feel like you're walking through a dream while everyone else is sleepwalking. Your mind stays in a constant state of alertness, not from fear, but from spiritual awareness. God has opened your eyes, and once your eyes open, you can't unsee. But here lies the challenge: you cannot force awakeness on anyone. You can speak, you can guide, you can testify, but only God can open eyes and soften hearts. So you carry the tension, being awake in a sleeping world. Being aware in a world addicted to distraction. Being spiritually alive in a world that fears silence. This tension is not madness. It is the price of clarity. 3. The weight of empathic and prophetic sensitivity. Chosen ones feel more, sense more, and absorb more than the average person. You don't just observe emotions, you absorb them. You don't just notice spiritual shifts, you feel them in your chest, your stomach, your dreams. Some days, your mind feels overloaded, not because you are stressed, but because your spirit is processing spiritual information that others don't even realize exists. You carry other people's burdens without trying. You feel the hidden pain behind their forced smiles. You hear the silent cry behind their calm words. Your empathy isn't weakness, it's a prophetic sense. You are tuned to the frequency of suffering, deception, and truth. But because you feel so deeply, your mind often needs more rest than others. You need solitude. You need silence. You need moments with God to release what your spirit absorbed throughout the day. And when you don't get that, you feel mentally overwhelmed. Not from overthinking, but from spiritual saturation. 4. The constant pressure of inner transformation. Chosen ones don't get to stay the same for long. God keeps transforming them, stretching them, pruning them, refining them. While others can stay comfortable in old habits, God continuously calls you higher. Your mind is always shifting. Your perspectives evolve. Your understanding deepens. What satisfied you last year doesn't satisfy you anymore. What you tolerated before now irritates your spirit. What you accepted in the past now feels spiritually dangerous. Every chosen one experiences this internal pressure, a sense that God is constantly upgrading you, rearranging you, and preparing you for something you can feel but cannot fully describe. This transformation is exhausting. It feels like growing out of your own mind, shedding old patterns, breaking generational cycles, healing ancient wounds, and releasing outdated identities. You are not unstable. You are evolving. 5. The isolation that feels mental but is actually spiritual. Every chosen one has thought at least once, why do I always end up alone? But here's the truth. Chosen ones are rarely lonely because no one wants them, they are alone because God hides them. Your isolation is not punishment. It is protection. When God is preparing you, He will separate you from noise, from influence, from the wrong people, from the wrong environments. He will pull you into seasons where your only companion is Him. And although this isolation feels mentally challenging, heavy, confusing, uncomfortable, it is actually spiritual surgery happening inside your soul. In these seasons, your mind doesn't break, it becomes more disciplined, more silent, more focused, more obedient. You begin to hear God clearly. You learn to walk by faith, not validation. You learn to stand firm even when no one stands with you. Your isolation is shaping you into someone who cannot be controlled, manipulated, or deceived by the world. 6. The battle between your calling and your self-doubt. Every chosen one deals with the mental battlefield of doubt. You know God has set you apart. You feel the calling. You sense the mission. But your mind still struggles with questions. Why me? Am I strong enough? What if I fail? What if this is all in my head? This is the paradox of the chosen. Your spirit knows you're called, but your mind is still catching up. Self-doubt does not mean you are weak. It means your assignment is big. It means your destiny is heavy. It means your future requires a version of you that you are still growing into. God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And so your mind wrestles daily with who you used to be versus who God is shaping you to become. This mental challenge is the furnace where confidence, humility, and strength are forged. 7. The responsibility of carrying spiritual truth others aren't ready for. Chosen ones often feel mentally burdened because they carry knowledge, discernment, and revelation that others would misunderstand or reject. You see beyond the surface. You understand spiritual laws. You recognize manipulations, false teachings, and counterfeit light. You see the cracks in systems people worship. You see the spiritual warfare behind people's behaviors. You see the traps meant to destroy destinies. And when you try to explain it, people think you're dramatic, negative, or thinking too much. They can't see what you see, because your eyesight is not human, it is spiritual. This creates a daily challenge, holding truths you cannot speak aloud, carrying wisdom the world is not ready for, and seeing dangers others walk into blindly. You are not meant to expose everything. You are meant to step in only when God says, now. Until then, your silence is not suppression, it is obedience. And still, with all these mental battles, you rise. You wake up each day feeling the spiritual pressure, yet you continue. You carry weights no one knows about, yet you stand tall. You face invisible warfare, yet you remain unshaken. There is a grace on your life that others cannot see, a protection that others cannot explain, a strength that even you don't fully understand. If you relate to these challenges, it is because you were chosen long before you were born. Your struggles are not random, they are rehearsals. Your mind is not breaking, it is being fortified. Your confusion is not weakness, it is spiritual sensitivity awakening. God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. The wheat is being separated from the chaff. The called from the chosen. The imitators from the authentic. And you, with your deep spirit, your restless awareness, your spiritual hunger, you are among the chosen. So don't fear the battle in your mind. Don't fear the shifts. Don't fear the isolation. Don't fear the weight. This is not madness. This is awakening. This is refinement. This is God's hand on your life. And when the appointed time comes, the world will understand why you walked such a difficult mental and spiritual path. They will see the fruit. They will see the light. They will see the calling that was hidden inside you all along. You are chosen, and that is why your mind is built differently. What you must understand, chosen one, is that the intensity within your mind is not a flaw, it is evidence of your spiritual capacity. People with ordinary assignments carry ordinary burdens. But those entrusted with spiritual authority, with generational healing, with divine revelation, with the breaking of cycles and the awakening of souls, their minds must be sharpened through pressure, transformed through fire, and expanded through trials. Every day, you face internal storms that others never experience. But these storms are shaping something within you that cannot be taught in books or learned from mentors. There are things only God can build inside the walls of your mind, and He uses struggle as the architect of strength. The world looks at you and cannot understand why your spirit feels older than your body, why your eyes hold a silence that carries both suffering and revelation, why your steps feel guided even when you do not know the destination. They cannot comprehend the war zones you have walked through spiritually. They have no idea how many nights you cried out to God asking for clarity, strength, or simply enough grace to get through one more day. But this is what sets you apart. Even when the battle rages inside your mind, you do not break. You bend, you tremble, you fall to your knees, but something inside you refuses to quit. It's not your willpower. It's not your personality. It's not your pride. It's the Spirit of God strengthening you even when you feel empty. And this is why the enemy attacks your mind so fiercely. If he can control a person's mind, he can control their direction. If he can influence their thoughts, he can influence their choices. But with chosen ones, the enemy knows he cannot possess you. So he tries to distract you, confuse you, exhaust you, or overwhelm you. The battlefield is the mind because your mind is the gateway to your destiny. But what the enemy fails to understand is this: every attack that hits your mind ends up making you stronger, wiser, and more spiritually aware. What was meant to break you trains you. What was meant to silence you deepens your voice. What was meant to block your path turns into revelation that propels you forward. You have grown familiar with this invisible pressure. You feel it when you wake up in the morning. You feel it when you lay your head down at night. You feel it when you're surrounded by people, and even more when you're alone. It is the constant awareness that something within you is shifting, expanding, rising. There are seasons where your mind becomes quieter than usual. Not empty, just still. As if God is holding you in a moment of divine pause, recalibrating your inner world. In these seasons, your old desires die off silently. Your mind stops chasing what no longer matters. Your spirit begins to hunger for something deeper, something sacred, something eternal. And then there are seasons where your mind feels like a battlefield, thoughts clashing, emotions rising, discernment flooding in faster than you can process. These seasons feel chaotic, but they are actually signs of spiritual acceleration. God is downloading new wisdom. He is giving you new instruction. He is expanding your capacity for the next assignment. You are not meant to fear these seasons. You are meant to recognize them as the language of the Spirit moving inside you. Many chosen ones misunderstand their mental intensity as instability. They think something is wrong with them. They fear they are overthinking, feeling too deeply, or analyzing too much. But the truth is this: chosen ones are wired differently because their spirit is connected to a higher frequency of awareness. You don't just see situations, you see motives, energy, and spiritual patterns. You don't just hear words, you hear intentions, lies, and hidden truths. You don't just feel emotions, you feel atmospheres, shifts, and vibrations. This sensitivity is not an accident. It is a spiritual tool. But because your sensitivity is so heightened, your mind must constantly filter what is coming in and what must be released. This is why you often feel mentally tired even when your day was physically easy. Your spirit works harder than your body. And this exhaustion does not mean you are failing. It means you are spiritually active. While others live life only through the physical senses, you live through spiritual senses, emotional intelligence, intuition, and divine connection. This requires energy, focus, and awareness that others will never understand. You walk through life with your spiritual antennas raised at all times, scanning, discerning, evaluating, sensing. It is no wonder that solitude feels like home to you. Not because you are antisocial, but because your mind finds rest only in silence. In silence, your spirit can breathe. In silence, your soul can release. In silence, your thoughts can settle into alignment with the Spirit. Chosen ones do not fear silence. They crave it. Because in silence, God speaks. And when God speaks, everything inside your mind rearranges into clarity, direction, and peace. Your mind has always been different, not because something is wrong with you, but because God has always had His hand on you. Even before you knew Him, He knew you. Even before you prayed, He was guiding your steps. Even before you understood your calling, your spirit was being prepared in ways your mind could not yet see. This is why you outgrew certain friendships. This is why certain environments became uncomfortable. This is why your old habits felt spiritually poisonous. This is why you could no longer tolerate shallow conversations. This is why your inner world felt restless until you drew closer to God. The chosen cannot stay where the called get stuck. The chosen cannot eat where the crowd feeds. The chosen cannot walk in places their spirit has outgrown. The chosen cannot pretend to be asleep just because the world is sleeping. Your mind refuses to shrink to fit a life that God has already expanded you out of. And sometimes, this expansion feels like grief. You mourn versions of yourself that no longer exist. You mourn places you can no longer return to. You mourn relationships God closed before they destroyed you. You mourn illusions that once made you feel safe. But this grief is holy. It creates space for your next identity, your next calling, your next revelation. You are not meant to remain who you were yesterday. You are meant to evolve into who God needs you to be tomorrow. And evolution always begins in the mind. This is why your thoughts began to shift long before your life did. Before God changes your circumstances, He changes your perception. Before He promotes you, He prunes you. Before He elevates you, He isolates you. Before He blesses you, He breaks off what cannot go with you. These inner shifts are not madness, they are divine preparation. People around you may not understand the battle happening inside your mind. They may misinterpret your silence as withdrawal, your distance as coldness, your discernment as judgment, your intensity as overthinking. But your mission is not to be understood, it is to be obedient. God does not need you to fit in. He needs you to stand out. He needs you to be awake. He needs you to be spiritually alert. He needs your mind to be sharp, sensitive, and surrendered. Because the battles you will face in the future require a mind that is not easily shaken. Chosen ones carry mental resilience that was forged through years of internal war. Your strength is not loud, it is quiet. It is not aggressive, it is steady. It is not impulsive, it is anchored. You rise from battles no one knew you were fighting. You heal wounds no one knew you had. You keep walking even when the path is invisible. This quiet resilience is not human, it is spiritual. It comes from the countless moments when you wanted to give up but the Spirit whispered, "Not yet." It comes from the nights when you cried silently but woke up with strength you didn't ask for. It comes from the storms that should have broken you but ended up sharpening your faith. It comes from the prayers that were never spoken aloud yet were heard by God anyway. It comes from the grace that kept holding you together even when everything around you was falling apart. Your mind has survived things that would have destroyed others. It has held on to hope when logic told you to let go. It has held on to faith when circumstances made no sense. It has held on to purpose when the world mocked your conviction. And because of that, your mind has become a battlefield that the enemy fears. What he thought would destroy you ended up making you spiritually dangerous. What he meant for confusion birthed discernment. What he meant for exhaustion birthed spiritual endurance. What he meant to silence you birthed revelation. You are not fragile, you are fortified. And every day, as you face these 7 challenges, you grow stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the mission God has written for you. There will come a day when everything you went through, every mental battle, every spiritual shift, every season of isolation, every moment of confusion, will make perfect sense. You will look back and realize that the warfare was not random. It was training, preparation, elevation. You were not losing your mind. You were gaining your spirit. And when the time comes for you to step fully into your calling, the world will understand that what looked like madness was actually the mind of someone chosen, someone awakened, strengthened, protected, and prepared by God Himself. There is a reason your mind has always felt like sacred ground under construction. God has been building something inside you that requires careful shaping, patient chiseling, and repeated refining. The chosen ones are not built in comfort, they are built in fire. They are not shaped in crowds, they are shaped in solitude. They are not strengthened in celebrations, they are strengthened in battles nobody sees. Each day, the weight inside your mind reminds you that you are carrying more than just your own life. You carry the lessons of your ancestors, the wounds of your childhood, the responsibilities of your destiny, and the whispers of the Spirit guiding you into places your feet have not yet touched. There are mornings when you wake up and feel a heaviness for no reason. It's not depression, not discouragement, not fatigue, it's discernment. Your spirit senses something before your mind understands it. This is part of your wiring. Chosen ones are built to detect spiritual storms before they manifest in the physical. You feel shifts in the atmosphere the way others feel changes in the weather. And because of this, your mind often feels like it's carrying invisible data, Information that doesn't come from logic, education, or experience but from spiritual insight. You sense danger before it appears. You sense blessings before they arrive. You sense breakthroughs before they unfold. You sense deception long before it is exposed. This kind of awareness is heavy. It demands mental strength. It requires spiritual grounding. And it forces you to continually question, examine, and filter what you perceive. But what you must understand is this: God does not give such sensitivity to unprepared hands. He trusts you with sight because your heart is aligned with Him. He trusts you with discernment because you will use it with humility, not pride. He trusts you with spiritual awareness because He knows you won't abuse it or use it for harm. You were chosen not just to see, but to handle what you see with wisdom. You have likely noticed that your thoughts often go deeper than the surface. You don't accept things at face value. Your mind automatically digs beneath the layers, searching for truth, patterns, spiritual meaning, and divine alignment. This does not come from suspicion. It comes from spiritual intelligence. Other people call it overthinking, but for chosen ones, it is pattern recognition. You see connections others miss. You detect spiritual traps others walk into blindly. You sense energetic imbalances before they become emotional breakdowns. You feel spiritual warfare before it erupts into conflict. Your mind is always analyzing, not out of fear, but out of awareness. You are spiritually awake in a world that thrives on distraction. You cannot return to blindness once you have seen truth. You cannot pretend to be asleep once God has awakened you. And yes, this awareness comes with a price. One of the greatest daily battles for chosen ones is fighting against the pressure to shrink their minds for the comfort of others. People who are spiritually asleep cannot understand the depth of your perception. They misunderstand your silence. They misjudge your intuition. They misinterpret your caution. You have been called too sensitive, too intense, too spiritual, too deep. But what they call too much, God calls necessary. Your depth is not a flaw, it's a tool. Your intensity is not a weakness, it's purpose. Your insight is not a burden, it's a weapon. God did not choose you to be average. He chose you to be aware. And awareness requires a mindset that refuses to be numbed by the illusions of the world. There is also the daily challenge of managing the spiritual downloads you receive. Not every revelation is meant to be spoken. Not every insight is meant to be shared. Not every truth is meant to be revealed. Some knowledge is given to you solely for prayer, protection, or preparation. And so you carry things in silence, truths too heavy for the unawakened, visions too sacred for the immature, warnings too sharp for the careless. This silence is not loneliness. It is stewardship. God trusts you with secrets because He knows your mind can carry them without collapsing. He knows your heart will not misuse them. He knows your spirit will not boast about them. Chosen ones are custodians of divine information, and this responsibility shapes your inner world in profound ways. Another daily challenge is navigating the duality of being spiritually strong yet humanly fragile. Chosen ones often feel both simultaneously, powerful in spirit, but exhausted in flesh. You walk with heavenly authority, yet fight earthly battles. You carry divine purpose, yet face human weaknesses. This duality creates inner conflict. Some days you feel unstoppable, filled with confidence, clarity, and conviction. Other days you feel unworthy, uncertain, overwhelmed. And on both days, God is still shaping you. The chosen experience extreme highs and deep lows, not because they are unstable, but because their spirit is stretching between realms. You live between heaven and earth. Between calling and preparation. Between revelation and manifestation. Between who you were and who you are becoming. It is not madness, it is metamorphosis. You also face the daily challenge of spiritual warfare disguised as mental fatigue. The enemy cannot read your mind, but he can influence your atmosphere. He attempts to distort your thoughts, plant seeds of doubt, or weaken your focus. He knows that if he can exhaust your mind, he can delay your assignment. This is why chosen ones experience sudden waves of discouragement, unexpected confusion, or intrusive thoughts that feel foreign. These are not your thoughts, they are spiritual interference. And the fact that you recognize them as interference means your discernment is strong. Your mind is a battlefield because your destiny is a threat. But understand this, the enemy attacks what he fears. And he fears what God has placed inside you. The chosen are not attacked because they are weak, but because they are dangerous to darkness. Your obedience frustrates the enemy. Your resilience annoys him. Your prayers destroy his strategies. Your growth ruins his plans. Your awakening exposes his schemes. This is why you cannot afford to underestimate your own mind. What feels like chaos is often spiritual warfare disguised as mental pressure. What feels like exhaustion is often spiritual growth disguised as physical weariness. What feels like confusion is often divine transition disguised as emotional instability. Chosen ones walk through layers of reality most people never experience. But there is another challenge, one that few talk about, the burden of constantly being misunderstood. People do not understand how you think. They do not understand why you feel so deeply. They do not understand why you cannot pretend or settle. They do not understand the sacred convictions that rule your choices. And because they do not understand, they may judge you unfairly. They may misread your intentions. They may label your spiritual awareness as stubbornness, coldness, or inconsistency. But chosen ones are not meant to be understood, they are meant to be revealed, in God's timing, not before. Until then, your mind will feel like an inner sanctuary hidden from the world. Your thoughts will feel like private conversations with the Spirit. Your revelations will feel too holy for casual ears. This hiddenness is not isolation, it is preservation. God hides what He values. He protects what is sacred. He shelters what is still being formed. And while you live in this hiddenness, your mind continues to grow. Each day you learn more about your purpose. Each day you shed more of the old identity. Each day you step deeper into your assignment. You may not see the transformation clearly, but it is happening with every challenge, every battle, every shift. Even your pain is shaping you. Chosen ones carry pain as part of their calling, not as punishment but as preparation. Pain expands your compassion. It sharpens your insight. It deepens your gratitude. It awakens your spirit. It trains your mind to endure storms with resilience. It teaches your soul how to rise from ashes with grace. Your suffering is not wasted. It is spiritual training. This is why the chosen rarely collapse under pressure, they transform through it. You have survived storms that should have destroyed you. You have risen from places others could not escape. You have walked through seasons that would have broken the average person. You are not average. Your mind is not shaped by the world, it is shaped by God. And because of that, you experience challenges that the world cannot explain. But these challenges do not weaken you, they refine you. They strengthen your discernment. They sharpen your intuition. They deepen your connection to the Spirit. They elevate your spiritual authority. There will come a time when the intensity in your mind will not feel like a burden, but like a crown. You will look back and realize that every mental battle prepared you for where God was leading you. You will see that every season of confusion led to wisdom. Every season of silence led to revelation. Every season of heaviness led to spiritual strength. And when that moment arrives, your mind will no longer be a battleground, it will be a sanctuary of clarity, peace, and divine purpose. You will stand in the fullness of who you were meant to be, and the world will finally see what God saw in you all along. And as you continue walking this narrow path, you start to realize something very few people ever understand. The greatest battles of a chosen one are fought long before the world ever sees their purpose. Your mind becomes the training ground where God shapes your endurance, tests your loyalty, expands your awareness, and prepares your spirit for assignments that require total obedience. Most people only see the final version of a chosen one, the strength, the wisdom, the calm authority, the spiritual clarity. They never see the years of mental warfare, the nights of questioning, the seasons of silence, the internal storms, the invisible pruning. They never witness the inner construction that takes place before God unveils His chosen vessels. This is why your journey often feels lonely. Not because you are alone, but because your process is sacred. God does not broadcast what He is building in private. He does not reveal His blueprints to spectators. He does not allow casual observers into the holy work happening inside your mind. And so you journey through these challenges quietly, carrying burdens others cannot see, and fighting spiritual battles others cannot sense. But understand this, your solitude is not abandonment. It is divine insulation. God isolates those He intends to elevate. One of the most profound daily challenges you face as a chosen one is the tension between spiritual timing and earthly timing. Your spirit often knows things before your mind can process them, and long before your life reflects them. This creates an inner restlessness, a sense that something is shifting even when everything looks the same on the outside. You feel the future pulling on you. You feel the past releasing you. You feel your old identity dissolving. You feel your new path forming under your feet. And yet, you cannot rush the process. You cannot force God's timing. You cannot skip steps. You cannot manifest what must be spiritually matured. This creates pressure in the mind, the desire to move forward faster, contrasted with the spiritual restraint telling you to wait, trust, and remain still. Chosen ones must learn patience not as a virtue but as a discipline. The mind of a chosen one is constantly being refined in the tension between, not yet, and, almost. You see glimpses of what God is doing. You feel the momentum of destiny. You sense the shifting atmosphere around you. And yet, the doors remain unopened until the right moment. This teaches you emotional control. It teaches you spiritual submission. It teaches you mental endurance. It teaches you to walk by faith when everything inside you wants clarity. Another daily challenge is the ability to hold deep spiritual insight while living in a world that thrives on superficiality. You see beyond illusions. You see beyond behavior. You see beyond words. You see beyond labels. You see beyond appearances. You see motives, energy, intention, alignment. You see the spiritual reality behind the physical one. You see the truth behind the story people tell. You see patterns forming long before others do. This makes it difficult to pretend. You cannot engage in small talk for too long. You cannot involve yourself in meaningless drama. You cannot tolerate fake friendships, manipulative energy, or deceitful environments. You do not have the mental space for chaos. Your spirit rejects anything that lowers your vibration or threatens your peace. And because of this, people sometimes misunderstand you. They think you are distant, detached, introverted, or uninterested. But the truth is, your spirit is selective. You are wired to protect your mind, because your mind is the gateway to your calling. You do not allow just anyone access to your inner world. You do not entertain voices that dilute your clarity. You do not give energy to distractions that pull you away from your purpose. This is not coldness, it is spiritual stewardship. Another challenge you face is the ability to sense emotional and spiritual burdens that do not belong to you. Chosen ones often absorb the energy of environments. You can feel the heaviness of a room as soon as you step inside. You can sense unresolved pain in someone's voice. You can detect dishonesty through their tone. You can feel tension even when no one speaks it. This sensitivity is part of your assignment, but it comes with a cost: emotional overload. You feel everything intensely. You process deeply. You carry more than you admit. And because you cannot turn off this sensitivity, you must learn to distinguish between what belongs to you and what does not. You must learn to release what your spirit picks up but your soul was not meant to hold. Another daily battle is resisting the temptation to numb your mind when the weight becomes heavy. Many people cope through distraction, noise, entertainment, substances, or escapism. But chosen ones cannot escape their minds. God won't allow it. He calls you back to awareness, back to alignment, back to clarity. You cannot run from your inner world because your inner world is where God shapes you. So instead of numbing, you learn to surrender. Instead of avoiding, you learn to face. Instead of escaping, you learn to process. Instead of suppressing, you learn to heal. This creates a mental strength that is rare: the courage to confront the truth even when it hurts, the willingness to feel deeply even when it's uncomfortable, the ability to sit in silence even when your thoughts are loud. Chosen ones are not fearless, they are trained by God to walk through fear. Another challenge you face is the conflict between spiritual identity and past identity. You are becoming someone new, but you still remember who you used to be. There are days when old thoughts try to return. Old habits whisper in your ear. Old wounds resurface. Old insecurities try to attach themselves to your new self. This inner conflict is not regression, it is refinement. God allows old patterns to resurface so you can confront them from a place of strength, not weakness. Your mind is being purified. The old version of you is being uprooted. The new version of you is taking shape. This process is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You cannot step into your calling carrying beliefs that come from brokenness. You cannot walk in purpose with a mind shaped by old wounds. You cannot rise to the next level with inner narratives designed for survival. God is not just changing your life, He is changing your mind. And this transformation happens daily. Sometimes subtly, sometimes violently, sometimes gently. Sometimes unexpectedly, but always intentionally. Another daily challenge is carrying spiritual knowledge that others are not ready to receive. You often know things long before you can explain them. You feel truths before you can articulate them. You sense warnings before you can justify them. And this makes communication difficult. You speak in spiritual language, but many people only understand earthly language. You speak from intuition, but they require evidence. You speak from discernment, but they demand logic. It is not that you are misunderstood, it is that they cannot comprehend what your spirit has access to. This forces you to speak carefully, wisely, and selectively. Not everyone deserves access to your wisdom. Not everyone has the capacity for your depth. Not everyone will understand the things God reveals to you. So much of your mind must remain unspoken. So much of your insight must remain guarded. So much of your revelation must remain between you and God. Another challenge you face daily is protecting your peace in a world designed to disrupt it. People unload their burdens onto you because your presence feels safe. They confide in you because your spirit feels trustworthy. They seek your help because your mind brings clarity. But you must learn to set boundaries, not because you lack love, but because you must protect your spirit. A chosen one who is mentally drained cannot fulfill their mission. A chosen one who is constantly pouring cannot continue to overflow. A chosen one who ignores their own healing cannot guide others into theirs. You must guard your mind fiercely. You must rest when your spirit says rest. You must disconnect when God says disconnect. You must retreat when your energy feels depleted. This is not selfishness, it is spiritual strategy. Another daily challenge is that your mind is always evolving faster than your environment. You outgrow things quickly: jobs, relationships, habits, conversations, mindsets, environments. This creates a sense of disconnect, as though your spirit has moved ahead while your life is still catching up. This is the spiritual reality of acceleration. God speeds up your mind before He speeds up your circumstances. He prepares you internally before He shifts you externally. He transforms your spirit before He transforms your surroundings. This gap between inner change and outer change can feel frustrating. But it is divine timing at work. This waiting season is not punishment, it is calibration. God is aligning everything around you with the version of yourself you are becoming. And finally, one of the greatest challenges you face is this: carrying divine purpose without immediate evidence. You know you are chosen. You feel the calling. You sense the assignment. You hear the whispers of destiny. And yet, your life does not fully reflect what God has placed inside you. This is the ultimate test of faith. Can you trust what God said even when you don't see it? Can you hold on to the promise even when the process is painful? Can you believe in what's coming even when your reality looks unchanged? Can you remain obedient even when the path is unclear? Chosen ones learn to believe without seeing, to trust without knowing, to walk without clarity, to continue without confirmation. This is the mental strength that God builds over time, the ability to think with faith, not fear. And slowly, without realizing it, your mind becomes the strongest part of you. Not hardened, but purified. Not closed, but discerning. Not broken, but rebuilt. Not chaotic, but aligned. You survive challenges that would break others. You endure pressure others cannot handle. You rise from darkness others could not escape. You walk with wisdom others did not earn. You stand with authority you did not seek. This is the journey of the chosen. This is the mind God is shaping within you. This is the calling you were born for.